Hey Lewis, how's it going?
It's going.
It's just going.
Yeah, no real. I'm very nihilistic about it. Like, no strong feelings either, or going. Yeah, it's going. How's it going with you?
It's going all right. I mean, I kind of wish we
Yeah.
had recorded this yesterday, but I could maybe get it out tonight.
Oh, well, late
Do
night chat with
do, do you want to explain
Lewis.
why we're recording this a day late?
I'm doing it. Um, well, I had a D&D session yesterday. It lasted a little longer than anticipated. We started at 3 o'clock, ended up finishing at 1 a.m. But that's every D&D session altogether. Nothing really happened. I can tell you about. No fun quippets. Like, we tried to kill our own party member because he was being a dick, but you know, yeah.
So you played D&D for what, 10 hours?
10 hours, yeah. Well, we had like a break, and the start of the session, we had to level everyone up because we just got to level 2, and then we had like a break and like had to eat shit. But yeah, no, it was probably like 9 hours of D&D. So, yeah, God bless our DM.
Damn.
Yeah,
Well, anyways,
I'm
as
going
far
to kill
as
off my character.
anime, uh,
Hmm?
as far as anime goes, with we have our designated. Well, mostly we have our designated shows that we're going to talk about this season. So I guess we'll talk about what they are
Yeah.
before we go into them specifically.
Yeah. Well, my designated show for the season is ReZero. However, I haven't watched that yet, so I'm just going to talk about 100 for today because, yeah.
I've even watched ReZero. I've watched your designated show before you have.
Well, I was busy this week, kind of.
With so much D&D.
Well, one session D&D, long session, longer than expected. Oh, God.
It probably won't be surprising to people who know me, but my choice for the season is Bungo Stray Dogs because it's got my favorite Igarashi and Inokido combo team working on it. I just like to pretend Captain Earth didn't happen. It was all. I mean, okay, Captain Earth was all right, but it was no
It had
Star
one good
Driver or
episode.
anything else they did. It just felt kind of passionless. It was weird.
Yeah. It had that one good episode where, ironically enough, I remember his voice actor, but I can't remember the dude's name.
Of
Oh no,
course.
Kensho's character. He had that kind of almost dream sequence that was the entire episode, and it was just kind of like a lot of spooky shit going down. I really liked that episode. I think it was episode 18, maybe.
Yeah, the later stuff in Captain Earth was actually pretty good. It was some of the beginning stuff. It just
Mm.
felt like it kind of dragged on a bit too much.
Yeah, you're just kind of waiting for stuff to pick up, and it's like, don't worry, guys, it'll come, and it never really came. It just kind of. Mm.
Yeah. But that's a show that aired a year ago. We should probably talk about current stuff.
That'd be an idea. That's what we kind of planned on making this a thing of. But yeah,
Yeah.
that's good.
We'll start with the main shows because those were our picks for our personally designated shows that we want to go through for the season. But we're also picking up the popular stuff that people will probably be watching, so we can have something relevant for most people to talk about. Although, if people want, they can also watch our designated shows to follow along with us and our opinions on them. But the main popular shows we're watching this season are, unsurprisingly, Kabaneri of the Iron Fortress and what was the other one?
Boko Academia.
Yeah, Hero Academia. I keep forgetting about it for some reason. Not that it was a bad
Yeah,
first
no,
episode.
I forgot about it too as well.
What?
No, I forgot about it when you mentioned it earlier. I was like, oh crap, yeah, we were talking about that one, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. I mean, we'll get into it, but the first episode wasn't bad or anything. It's just for some reason, when we're thinking about the shows we're watching, we're talking about this season, Hero Academia is always the one we just forget about.
It just kind of fades into the background. It was an episode, but it wasn't. Which bodes well for how we're gonna talk about it.
Well, like I said, I liked it. I have things to talk about. I mean, do you want to
Yeah.
talk about Hero Academia first and then get into Iron Fortress after?
Sure, yeah, it'll be good starter, I guess, because we'll save the big one for last this time around.
Well,
Um,
last, even though it's going to be second.
Oh yeah, will be shit. Um, but yeah, but well, I can't really criticize it for what it is. It was literally just a shonen starter up. Sure, it was told you what the special things with the world is. Showed you the characters, showed you the traits, and it showed you the kind of underdog theme going with our main character. Um, I can't criticize the like blatant scenery of it. Like, gee, I wonder where his quirk is. Maybe it's in his foot. I don't know. Um, but I can't really criticize it that much because, after all, I know what I'm getting, and I'm just literally just trying to get entertained by it. It's really a matter of fact that like of how the later episodes go, rather than these kind of starter episodes that will kind of demonstrate how good a show Academia actually is, rather than you know whatever the else it would be.
Sure, yeah, I agree with you in that it's hard to judge. Not even just shonen, but shows in general can be hard to judge on their first episode. But
Mm.
something to think about is, like, for example, how would you say this first episode compares to other general shonen shows?
Um. Well, if you're gonna classify, I don't know, Tokyo Ghoul as a shonen,
I wouldn't.
then you wouldn't.
I mean, like Naruto,
Okay.
Bleach. Like, this is the next
Um.
big popular like manga that's being made. Like, in the lines of Naruto, Bleach, One Piece, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. It's yeah. Um. I'm just trying to think of shonen because I haven't really watched any of the big three, so I can't really say anything on that.
Oh wow.
Let's say Seven Deadly Sins because that's the only shoujo that's come to mind.
Sure, that works.
Seven Deadly Sins had a lot more of a focus on the world rather than the characters for um its starter upper. Like I remember Academia really focused in, immediately showed you the past of Deku. It showed you everything with his mother and how he wants to be a hero goddamn so bad, whereas Seven Deadly Sins went about showing you this is the history of the world. This is how crazy shit is in this world. Ain't we wacky? Which I would say is a lot more enticing for a shonen in the long run because, you know, we care when you're watching a shonen. You're essentially watching a Western action movie. You kind of want to see shit get fucked up, in layman's terms, really, just to enthrall you, get that kind of click going. Because I know I'm not dissing. This isn't a criticism to Academia in any way, shape, or form. But I know I'm not going to get any like deep plot with these intense character relations and drama. I know what I'm going to get with Academia, so they might as well try their best to kind of show that to me. Show me the world rather than the characters. So, well, there's a criticism for Academia right there. So, yeah.
But could you say is there really a world to show off when it's basically just like it's the normal world, but people have powers now?
Uh, well, if there were some almost war zones, um, like if there were war zones between like people with the bad quirks and the I don't know good quirks, yeah, bad quirks and good quirks, then that could be something. But it seems like the order is kind of like intact. It's really hard to like say because, yeah, like it's. I guess this is kind of reason why I kind of fell into like the back of my memory because it didn't really leave that much of a good impression with me. It didn't leave a bad impression. It just left me with like a completely stale impression, really.
Interesting. Uh, I'm kind of with you in that. Something to note in shonen is that generally, at least for the most part, the more popular ones, that shonen tend to live or die by their creativity, as far as like how unique they can be. Generally, the more out there their world is, and the more proper nouns of things they have, the better it will sell. Largely because I feel like that's almost like an entry gate in sorts. Like if you can buy into the world and all the proper nouny aspects of it, like you're gonna get drawn in. Like you're
Yeah.
what's the word I'm looking for? You've bought your ticket, you know. If you can buy into all of that stuff, like you're a part of that world. Like it's hard for you to really get out of it once you're in. Whereas Hero Academia doesn't really have this big fancy world. It has the normal world with people with powers. And I feel like it tries to
Yeah.
compensate for that with the main character being, you know, the emphasis on him being, you know, that normal kid that's just really passionate about wanting to do something, which, you know, pretty much anyone can relate to. So that's an easy level of entry there for like relatability reasons. And then just other aspects about the first episode that I actually liked was I liked what they did with I don't remember what they called him, but the number one ranked hero who's basically like America incarnate with
All Might. That was his name.
All Might.
Yeah.
Yeah, with his damn Texas punch. Something
I like the way he said shit. It was amazing.
Yeah. What I liked what they did about his portrayal was that he was that as though they were talking about he was like the number one hero, and you know he even inspired the main character. Something they always did with him is they always framed him in this really weird light, like something was off. Like you could never see his eyes, and his grin was like almost too much. Like he was almost Jokerish, and like how it was like constantly overblown. Like something just seemed sort of off with him, which kind of came to a head at the end where
that sort of menacing character.
Yeah, like at first I thought they were gonna make him like almost like turn him into a villain or something. Like secretly he's doing bad stuff, but it turns out at the end it's more just in the vein of something's kind of off in general. As it kind of teased that there's something going on with his powers or whatever in that regard.
Yeah, no, because like even I was kind of getting the sense of him just like when he approached Deku, he had that like real big grin on him, and I was like, I would not be surprised if this guy's a villain. But now I just kind of feel like it's just going to end up with him passing the torch to Deku, so he can be like the all-powerful, almighty character, really. So
yeah, it could potentially go that way, or it's hard to say because I would make that prediction too, but because the episode ended where it did, where it was basically right after he asked about if he could be a hero despite not having a power, it's hard to say where it's really going to go. Like, for all we know, the second episode's going to start and he's going to be like, are you fucking kidding? Of course you can't.
Yeah.
Like,
you could actually do that.
I don't think it'll actually do that, but there's always the possibility.
I don't know, really. It's hard to call. We're probably just going to... I feel like the third episode, if they haven't really developed it, or if, you know, I feel like the second episode is going to revolve around a transfer of power between, you know, going from All Might to Deku, and then third episode will like end with him having a revelation within his foot or something that he got his quirk or something. So I feel that that's going to be the progression. It's going to be a slow burn, really, for a shonen, but it's going to be that.
I don't know about a slow burn, though, because what's important to note is that normally Pierrot does a lot of or Toei. Pierrot and Toei tend to do the general shonen shows, but I'm pretty sure this is being done by Bones. So
yeah, it's being done by Bones, yeah.
They generally, when they take shonen works, there's a bit faster of a pace, and they usually only go for like 24 episodes max, so.
Yeah. It's a hard one to call.
Yeah, that's going to be the case for almost all the first episodes we talk about.
Yeah.
First episodes are hard to call. I mean, even when it's a good first episode, it could always end up going to shit, because sometimes you have like that great intro, and then the author doesn't know what to do after that.
I'm looking at you, Sword Art Online.
But you read SAO Progressive, where Kawahara is basically fixing the first arc.
Yeah, Progressive's actually legitimately good, though. Like, it's weird. They made, like, Asuna kind of a main character instead of Kirito. And yeah. It's weird. Like, it feels strange that it's written by Kawahara, and it's the same characters, but it's like, they have character. It's weird.
Well, hasn't Kawahara gone on record saying that he knows all the issues with, like, the first arc and, like, writing in general, which is kind of not a surprise, because when I did that bit of research, I found out he puts out, like, 10 volumes, light novel volumes a year. Like, the
Yeah.
dude just never stops writing, and he doesn't even stop to think, it seems.
Yeah, no, that must be hell for him, really. Like, he's got like other works as well, like Axel World, that he's kind of gonna keep up with. Ugh.
Yeah, like, I wouldn't be surprised if he crashed and burned at one point. Like, that's an insane output. And I mean, normally you would see something like that and be like, oh, he's in it for the money, putting out that much really quickly without bothering to think about the writing quality. But he says that the reason he does it because he doesn't want to disappoint people. So it's like, well, now I feel bad.
I'd almost assume it was just like, his editors and his publishers just pushing for him to get more content out, so there'd be more money in pockets, really. But then he didn't want to disappoint those people, really.
Maybe, but I mean, it's definitely possible. But I feel like it's more the case that, especially maybe beforehand, that may have been it. But I feel like it's at the point more so where they don't. I don't know if they feel like they could say anything to him. Like, with it being the juggernaut that it is, they kind of just let Kawahara do what he wants.
It's an interesting point. He's still relatively young, though, in fairness. Like, he's maybe in his 30s, maybe. So
Yeah.
I wouldn't really know how much power he would have at that age, with Japan. Obviously, Japanese expert Lewis here, but it'd be kind of weird to, like, see how much power he has within the whole senpai-kohai relationship there, so.
Yeah,
I don't know.
it's a bit of a hard call, and this is just speculation anyways, as far as like the power dynamics of the writer and the editor. Like, we don't actually know this part.
Yeah, well, yeah. At least he managed to, like, get the power to write progressive and just kind of cover over his own, like, flaws, really, and still keep the core story intact, kinda.
Well, the way I've seen too is that he's not writing progressive as like a weekly release. Like, the way he works is that he writes chapters when he has free time to, like, do it, which would mean that he has the time to think about what he's gonna write next, which I feel like is why the quality shows better in progressive.
That's probably the reason why, because, like, the volumes, there's probably only, like, I think there's only 4 volumes out at the moment, so, and he started this maybe 2-3 years ago, so I wouldn't be surprised if that would be the case, really.
Yeah, because I think someone asked about it when he was at a panel once. They were like, what about more progressive? And he said something about how he writes it when he has free time.
That extra time, really.
Yeah, I'd imagine that extra time to think about stuff is what helps the writing be better.
Generally, yeah, thinking about what you write is very positive all around.
Yeah, I mean,
that's what I tend to see, anyways.
I mean, I've said it before, but at the rate that he puts out stuff, if you take that into consideration, like, the SO's writing isn't bad considering that. Like, I don't know how many other authors could write stuff that quickly and not be, a total train wreck. Like, SAO's not great, but, like, you can see all the plot holes and stuff like that comes as a result of writing so quickly. But at the same time, like, at least it manages to be entertaining for the most part.
Yeah, well, a lot of the time it just feels like, they're just getting from A to B and trying to add a little bit of plot points as they kind of go about. Because, there aren't many twists per se or things that really make you just go on the edge of your seat. Obviously, he can't really plan those out, but at the same time, it's not really anything commendable.
Like, yeah, I mean, ultimately, I'd rather him take his time more and write stuff, which is why, like I've said, I'd be really interested in seeing Alicization, or however it's pronounced, if that ever gets an anime or a movie, or however they decide to adapt that, because he's spent so much time on it. I mean, he's probably put out volumes at the same rate, but the arc has just been going on for so long that hopefully if it's at a slower pace than others, he's had a bit more time to think about how things go.
Yeah. Still, it's gonna be hard to kind of, like, ultimately redeem him within the anime community, because he's just a big old target and a big old reason to hate things, because he's got a stigma within a lot of people now, and it's gonna be hard to kind of, like, repair that, and I don't think a one arc is gonna fix it, sadly.
Yeah, but at the same time, I feel like Kawahara is a bit of an easy target. Like, he's not actually the worst writer in the industry. He's just the easiest one to target. as far as SAO goes. Like, I watch a lot of shit each season, and I've seen shit way worse than SAO. Let me put it that way.
It's still, it's hard to really kind of like it's hard to people just kind of like acknowledge those due to the insane popularity that SAO got, because I know people generally tend to say that, you know, popularity doesn't really affect my opinion, but it really, really does. Like, more people are going to despise Sword Art Online than, say, Magical Warfare, even though Magical Warfare is by far the worst show. But it's really hard to, like, defend him at this point, though.
Man, we live in a world where Magical Warfare got licensed and got an English dub, and the Gothic license is stuck in purgatory. How does that feel?
It is fucking bizarre, really. Like, who fucking... Silver Spoon still doesn't have a fucking dub. Like...
Well, yeah, but that's Aniplex. Like, Aniplex rarely ever dubs anything, because as long as they can spend as little money as possible and then put out volumes for, like, $100 a piece, like, they don't give a shit.
Yeah. Though when Aniplex does dub something, it's actually pretty fucking great, though. So, if they actually get around to it, that'd be beautiful.
Their dubs in general are pretty decent, and I still need to listen to a good chunk of the Moggy dub, which I'm really interested in because they actually held open casting for that. So, like, they actually...
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, they took the time to get, like, some unknowns that they thought would work for the character. Like, I thought that was really cool. Like, that's something that doesn't happen nowadays, because Funimation is just like, we'll just get whoever the fuck's in the fucking office today, instead of actually bothering to, like, you know, think about character quality as far as, like, voice acting.
I like to look at that janitor over there. Hey man, what's your name? It's Austin Tyndall. Oh man, we got this show called Guilty Crown. You want to be in it? Yeah, sure.
Are we gonna make an Austin Tyndall being a janitor joke every show now?
Yeah, we'll try and sniff it in. We gotta have, like, you know, inside jokes on the show, you know?
We'll find a way. We should move on, though. I think we've spent just as much time talking about SAO and such as we did fucking Hero Academia.
That's true. It's true.
I mean, to be fair, this is, like, okay. Like, I'm fine with us going off topic, because as long as we talk about interesting things, like, it doesn't really matter that much. We're really just using the airing shows as, like, a branching point. If we can talk about the currently airing shows in an interesting way, that's cool. But if it works as a branching point to other topics, that's also cool.
It is very decent. I'm surprised we didn't actually, like, use Sword Art Online as a real topic there for Academia. I just immediately went to Seven Deadly Sins.
I think we just forgot about it.
Its world. Yeah, I don't know.
Anyways, as far as interesting topics, though, we should move on to Kabaneri of the Iron Fortress.
Yeah.
And I think you should start again with your opinions this time, because you watched it like 30 minutes ago. So...
Wow, way to break, like, the immersion, really. Jeez.
Well, we're real people that watch shows, man. I don't think there's any immersion about us being omnipresent anime watchers.
Still though. Well, the immediate thing that actually struck me, because I'm obviously going to look for similarities with Attack on Titan, since it's got the same goddamn people on everything.
Pretty much.
Is that it started off with an action sequence against the foe. Like, Attack on Titan's episode 1 started off with the people fighting the Titans in the forest. I think I had Captain Erwin there as well, and then the same thing happened on the train with Kabaneri. They had, like, people fighting the train. No real criticism. I just thought it was an interesting point. Overall, I watched the show 30 minutes ago, but I already forget the main character's name.
I don't know if they ever said it other than, like, twice anyways.
That's a decent point. Kyoma? Is that it?
I don't know. I just think of him as that guy with a missing lens in his glasses.
No, he has both lenses. One is just tinted, though, I think.
Really?
Yeah, because I remember he got knocked off and there was a shine on him, and there was a shine on the other lens. Oh. This other one has, like, a little tint on it.
Really?
It's
I
weird.
didn't notice. Wow, okay.
But, yeah, main character has a lot more room for improvement than Eren definitely does. He has that kind of engineering side of him, which is pretty goddamn cool. If they can kind of have him just kind of engineer, like, weird shit throughout the show, I'll be definitely interested in that. As far as the rest of the cast goes, really the only other interesting character that I can foresee having any development is Mume, the main chick. She's completely shrouded in mystery, so it's really just going to be a kind of a deal with trying to find out more about her, finding what her deal is and where she came from. That's probably going to be the kind of character exposition for the near future, really, I see. So, so far, but as an episode, it was pretty damn enjoyable, I must admit. It was a damn fine first episode, I must admit. It got everything really done right. It got the inequality set in the world set up. It showed, the separation in class between the royalty and the measly engineers, as they pointed out. It showed the lengths of what people will go once they've been infected. It did everything really, really well, I feel, in setting up the episode and setting up its themes. It's really a matter if they can kind of consistently keep that pace and that kind of intrigue going and see if they can actually do anything with the Kabaneri, or is it just going to be another weird, wacky situation where, I don't know, Super Kabaneri will fight main character who can also turn into Kabaneri at will or something like that. Hopefully it doesn't turn to that, but, whatever.
Oh god, that'd be so close. Yeah, I liked the first episode too. It was, it's hard with Tetsuya to not be entertained by things unless it's like Guilty Crown, and even in the first episode you can see like what the fuck is going on.
Yeah. But
yeah, he's always been a bombastic director, which is why his shows have always drawn in the general audience so much, is because like it's always high octane. It always keeps people's attention with like crazy, bombastic, dramatic things happening. Like even when people aren't fighting, they're yelling at each other. Someone's getting fucking punched in the face for talking bad about someone higher up than them. Like he knows how to keep people's attention, which is probably what you need to do to get, a generally popular show, obviously. But what can make for interesting conversation with this is, you mentioned some of them already, but the Attack on Titan comparisons can get a little absurd at times. Like you mentioned the opening bit being, samey, but it's also got, the contrast with, the lower level engineers and the higher ups was a thing also in Titan, with the people living in the inner walls and the people living on the outer walls being richer and poorer.
Yeah.
They don't give as much of a shit. Although I will say in Attack on Titan, they were a bit more like comically evil, like fuck the poor people. Whereas in this one, the guy
like twiddling the mustaches and everything,
Yeah, twirling mustache kind of style. Whereas in Kabaneri, it's just a bit more like, this is just how the class system is. Like, and he just doesn't think to question it at all. So a bit less, mustache twirly. But at the same time, it's still there. And then the main character still, obviously, well, I guess the main character doing shit with the zombies and is a bit of a given, because that's how it would work with any show. But like the wall gets broken down in the first episode and the enemy invades and like there's a massacre. Again, with Attack on Titan was the same. It's like there's just so many comparisons you can make if you actually like look at it, and even in like tonally, like as far as like which parts of the episode, like when something dramatic is happening and then when something not dramatic is happening, like it's almost the exact same as the first episode of Attack on Titan. Like it's actually a little crazy how much they almost recreated it, just given a different story elements, which I feel like were almost like artificial just to make it seem different. Like now instead of swords they use guns, and now instead of big giant titans they're small but still strong as fuck zombies and shit like that. But
it's
it's
kind of funny. It did follow the same pace where it had like the uprise in action and then kind of a cool down with politics and then another uprise again. I don't know if that's just going to be Araki's style or not, or if it's literally just the goddamn same thing. But going back to classing, I did like the fact that there was kind of like an innocent ignorance between girl voiced by Usha Maya. Yeah, that's gonna be another theme in the podcast.
It was the That was the princess chick
royal.
next to the dude, right?
Yeah, the person who said like, "Oh, look at my air gun thing." That girl.
Yeah, yeah. She almost feels like
Yeah.
so far she's gonna serve the same role as you haven't. I don't think you've seen it yet, but as Cordelia from Mobile Suit Iron Blooded Orphans, where she's like kind of like in Iron Blooded Orphans, Cordelia was kind of like this intermediary where she wanted passage to Earth to like talk about people on Mars or some shit. How like honestly they explained it the first episode and didn't explain it as much detail after that, but she was like gonna get people on Mars more rights. It was just basically to like get rid of some of like make more equality in general, I guess.
Okay.
But over time she sees how like she's kind of ignorant of how like the people live, as far as like the lower rung, as they call themselves. Like
Yeah.
I think they call themselves space rats as like a kind of thing to sewer rats. But
Space rat.
she kind of learns in that regard and how like little she actually knows about the world. It seems like this chick in Kabaneri is going to serve almost the exact same role.
It does seem that sort of way. She has that sort of innocence to her that will kind of like, make her curious of the world. I feel like she's probably going to end up dying. So, can't wait for that. So, yeah. It is kind of funny. I remember actually just going back to the Attack on Titan similarities that I audibly scoffed when the wall actually broke down, because I didn't even notice the wall in the first episode completely. So when it actually just showed in there, it just popped right into frame. I was like, they really aren't hiding this, are they?
Yeah. But then it brings up the idea of like, do you think that the entire reason they brought back like almost all the staff, like we're not even talking like music composer and director, like I'm pretty sure like almost all the key staff from Attack on Titan are back for the show.
Yeah.
Do you think they just got everyone together and said, well, Attack on Titan was pretty successful, should we do it again? Like, do you think maybe it was on purpose?
I feel like it was almost kind of like a coalition type thing where like everyone was just like, Attack on Titan did very well. I feel this source material can be mended in a way where we can kind of replicate it, but we can't do it exactly right. So we're going to get Egoist to sing the LP instead of someone else. There we go. There's a difference right there.
Well, isn't Kabaneri an original work? I don't think it's based on anything.
It's not. Oh. Well, there you go. They probably did like end up just trying to. We can't exactly say how far it's going to go with its similarities. Really, at the current present time, yeah, it has definitely shown some goddamn similarities. But I feel like that's just a matter of way to get the audience involved, get it enticed with it, because it worked for Attack on Titan. Surely we can do it again. So I feel like the first 3 episodes are going to feel a little samey. Afterwards, it's kind of all up in the air of how they're actually going to separate themselves from Attack on Titan,
Or whether they choose to. Or whether they choose to at all.
That's true. I'd hope for the latter, but
I mean, but like I said, if they're purposely going for a similar thing to Attack on Titan, maybe the similarities aren't gonna stop.
I don't want this again. But it'd be a shame, really, because saturation really kills the industry. So having the same thing happen again, it'll almost create a new goddamn genre of anime, and that's not what I want in the slightest. So I'm praying that it at least goes its own separate it takes a different train down a different track than Attack on Titan did. Getting the little train metaphors going, you know what I'm saying.
Wow.
Yeah. And then, but again, it's kind of hard to say at this point. We're just going to have to wait for episode 4 to come along. Well, I'm going to wait for episode 4 to come along, and then that's going to be the breaking point, really. I'm still going to watch it, obviously, but, I just really hope it's going to be its own thing, because it'd be a utter shame if it wasn't.
True, but at the same time, don't you think it could also work as, almost like a better version? Like, what if it's better than Attack on Titan? Wouldn't the comparisons be I mean, it would still be nice if it was its own thing, but if it does the similar things to Attack on Titan but does them better, isn't that necessarily okay too?
Well, the key thing they need to do is to make the Kabaneri a constant threat. Always make them feel like if a big old wave came at them, they could goddamn die. Because the Titans after episode 8 were just fodder, really. You send Eren, Mikasa after them, they just fall down like goddamn big things that fall down. So the main thing they have to accomplish, they can have like word for word copies of dialogue between Attack on Titan. But I feel like the main thing it has to can do is to keep the Kabaneri looking strong, basically. Keep them looking tough so they can actually be a constant threat. Otherwise, the entire show will start to lose its meaning, since basically this is an humanity versus X show. And it's kind of hard to do that when humanity has the greater upper advantage. Because this show's always work when humanity is the underdog.
True. I mean, you've already mentioned that the main character is better than Eren so far as like his setup, so they've already got an upper hand bit there. So as long as they keep the Kabaneri intimidating and like a constant threat, this could end up being pretty good, I would say.
Yeah, just wait and watch until like that bullet that he was making gets mass produced and they're just like machine gunning them all down.
True, it could get mass produced, but it seems like it's because the explosive power is so high, it's not exactly easy to use. And then even then, there's so fucking many Kabaneri that they could still wreak havoc even if they can decently fight back now.
Yeah, I don't know. I was just watching OP and it's like they were all doing flippy shit and stuff, and they were just really like killing them really easily. But this was Mume, in fairness, and she seems like she's going to be like the badass of the show, like kind of the Mikasa almost. So as long as it's just her, I think I'll be okay with it. But we just have to wait and see it to see if what's going to happen with that bullet, I guess, really. And if the Kabaneri are going to be like, if there is going to be any super Kabaneri or any like, you know, advanced Kabaneri in like Curse, if you will. They'd be more fucked up Kabaneri. Maybe they got bitten twice when they initially turned or some shit like that.
Something to think about, though, is, I mean, we sort of already talked about it, but I mean, as far as a general audience goes, it's something to think about is how similar can something be without people crying foul about it? Like, obviously the Attack on Titan comparisons are obvious and everyone's already talking about that, but how much is too much? Like, on the one hand, it being very similar to Attack on Titan could be a large fuel for its popularity, but at the same time, if it's too similar, it could also cause people to say, fuck this show, it's just Attack on Titan again. You know, where's the line that people will draw on something being too similar?
It really, I think it feels like if it's just, you know, it helps if the show was good in the first place, because in the end you're getting more of a good thing, which
True.
A copy of a good thing more than ever. Attack on Titan is fine, I guess. It's not. I can't really call it bad. It's above bad, so to speak.
It's enjoyable.
Yeah. I would not like more of it. I would not like the exact same thing again. But it's really depends on how the show goes from it, because you can have very similar setups. Like Sword Art Online, I remember Ixion Saga DT, when that aired, it had so many people just chastising it, brutalizing it for being just cashing in on that Sword Art Online hype. For you who don't know, Ixion Saga DT is an adaptation of an RPG game. It had a guy jump in through his monitor and be trusted into this new world they just know. Very similar to Attack on Titan, I mean, Sword Art Online, except he's the only new person in the game. Everyone else is, like, currently still in the game. Ixon Saga DT turned out to be one of the funniest shows I've ever seen. And in my regard, it's a better show than Sword Art Online. So it's really a matter of how they kind of go about it, really. There are definite similarities between Ixon Saga DT and Sword Art Online throughout its course. But it's just a matter of how good it is, basically.
True. It's quality on its own is probably going to be its deciding factor. It's just it's interesting to think about when a general audience goes, because sometimes it's almost like a drop in the hat, where, like, especially because, like, the same staff is working on this, it almost feels like people could equally say, well, it's these guys doing what they're good at again, I like that, and then also they could just as easily say these guys are one trick ponies, fuck them. So I guess the quality of it on its own is going to be helpful in deciding which way people go. But at the same time, like, it almost feels like, you know, flip a coin into a fountain as far as how the general reception goes for something like this being so similar to something else that was popular.
Yeah. I don't know. This is really only their second show of this sort of type, really, that they've made. So far, it's just a matter of whether this works. And if it works, then they probably will make, I don't know, Attack on Titan with bows and arrows next or something like that. So, but yeah, it's just a matter of whether this works or not. Then they will probably might explore something new, might not, but I don't know.
Before we move on, though, one thing I was confused about, and I don't know, maybe you're just as confused, everyone else is confused. How the hell did the main character get rid of his shit? Like, at the end, like, what was the logic behind that? Was he was like choking himself, and I guess the oxygen stopping going to his brain made the flow reverse. Like, I was very confused.
Well, here's how I saw it: is that he managed to basically contain the wound. Because if you look at the OP in the end there, he is still wearing his, like, setup. Basically, he still has, like, the restraints on his arm. He's still got the neck brace and shit. So I'm guessing that he just managed to constrain it rather than completely and utterly get rid of it. It was poorly shown because when you look back to his arm, the purple mess was just completely gone. But I feel like it's going to be a reoccurring theme throughout the show where it's going to keep up. It's going to be his vice, so to speak. It's going to, like, keep up, springing up out of nowhere and just take him down, and then he just has to randomly choke himself just to get rid of it or some shit. So that's how I perceived it, basically. It's not gone. It's still there, and it's going to be his vice, basically. It was definitely weird how they showed him getting rid of it, how they got rid of it. Maybe it was the cut off of oxygen that prevented the flow, and it's just kind of contained in that sort of area. But it's really up in the air at this moment.
Yeah, it's maybe they'll explain it better later, especially, like, maybe someone will see the bite and he'll be like, oh, this is what I did, so that'll help with the explanation. But yeah, I think that about covers the main shows that we've picked up. We're also gonna do Magi because we're interested in watching that anyways, but it hasn't aired yet. So. Yeah. But what's interesting as far as, like, me personally to see what'll happen is we picked up Kabaneri and Boku and Hero Academia because it seemed like those are going to be the popular shows of the season. But after watching first episodes of stuff, I wouldn't be surprised if Joker Game ends up being the most popular show this season because it had a pretty fucking great first episode.
I haven't actually watched it. The entire synopsis, really deterred me because I just feel like anime set in the Western world just doesn't really work. As I push away Baccano from you, but I just feel like it's going to be a big old miss in the end. I haven't watched the first episode, obviously, but I just didn't really like the look of it.
I'm pretty sure it's in Japan.
It is?
Based on the stuff that happened. Like, they're Japanese spies.
Oh, no, Joker Game. Yeah, that's the goddamn World War II thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh. Why did I not want to watch that? Some reason. I think because it was about detectives or some shit. I don't know.
Well, they're not detectives; they're spies.
Spies.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, it'll be interesting to see. Like, it had a really good first episode. The music, especially, was great. The way it ended, like, the music swelled really well. Normally, what was interesting about the first episode was normally I notice when directors do stuff like that, where it's like obviously making you feel a certain way, like the music will swell a certain way, and it's like, this is the time to feel like this. And it doesn't always bother me, but I just kind of notice it. But I was so into the episode and what was happening that I didn't even notice it doing it. Like, that's how, like, actually immersed I got into the episode, which was actually pretty cool. But it's, I don't know, because it's probably not going to be as actiony as anything as other stuff, but at the same time, like, it's portrayed really well, and people like spy shit, so there's something there. And then, like, it's basically the main MC isn't a spy. Like, he's the kind of person who looks at these spies and is like, well, fuck the way they behave, because he's, you know, honorable Japanese soldier, you know, and these guys being deceptive and doing weird shit like that, and their general attitudes like beef him. And so his kind of like strain with them will work really well, is like keeping people's attention. I mean, I didn't expect Showa and Roku last season it wasn't incredibly popular, but it was decently well received from people, and that, you know, was largely just a character-based show with no actiony bits at all. So I wouldn't be surprised if Joker Game ended up being really popular this season.
Joker Game. Guess I gotta watch that now. So.
I mean, we don't have to talk about it. We didn't designate it beforehand, but I might here and there talk about it if something interesting happens in episodes and stuff. But it was a really good first episode.
Well, it has interested me now, so I might as well.
Yeah, but as far as personal picks go, I guess I'll do mine first because it's actually like an official, actual pick. I don't know if you've seen it because we kind of had to get into this pretty quickly, but I mentioned we picked up Bungo Stray Dogs. Did you have time to watch Bungo Stray Dogs?
No.
Yeah, I figured. I won't talk about it too much then. All I'll say is that I guess talking about vague stuff is that I like the first episode, which I guess isn't too surprising. It definitely feels like Igarashi's back to actually having some passion in what he's doing, which is interesting since it's an adapted work rather than an original work he and Inokito did, although Inokito is doing the adapted script of the work. It just feels like there's more energy in it now, and I've always liked how Igarashi could, he's always had a really quirky sense of humor, but at the same time, like, when things can get serious, he definitely has an eye for knowing how to make things visually fascinating and almost dramatic. Like, he knows when to, you know, pull aside the curtains, I guess I could say, as an analogy.
Huh.
But one recurring gag I liked is that they had like, for example, with his quirky humor is they had one gag where I won't explain the context of the joke too much because you still need to see the episode, but like there's an arrow, like an actual drawn arrow in the show that points at like a beam on the roof, and like the camera angle switches a couple times, but the arrow is still kind of there pointing at it, and it changes colors each time, and like the beeping as the arrow appears like gets more frantic as it goes on, almost like, yes, look at this thing. And it just, like, I don't know, I like that touch that like the beeping was getting like more and more frantic as it went on.
I remember looking at some of the character bios once, and there was a dude that in his character bio says he likes suicide.
Yeah, you'll see that in the first episode.
Hmm?
You'll see a bit of that in the first episode.
Okay.
It's amusing. I mean, it'll be interesting because comedy's subjective, and maybe you won't like the humor, but I think you'll probably like the humor. But even if you don't, like, it'll be interesting to see the contrast between both of us.
Yeah. I remember being a little wary of it because it kind of reminded me too much of Gekkai Sensen, and that got too boring really real quick for a show that really shouldn't be. So yeah, I was just a little wary of Stray Dogs.
Gekkai Sensen was pretty popular among people, but I also didn't really care for it that much. I don't know what it was really. Like, I recognized the quality of the work. Like, you know, like a lot of things about the show I liked. It just didn't manage to engage me though. I don't know what it was.
I don't know. Like, I'm all for exposition and everything, but it almost felt like they were too heavy with it. Like, they just kept willing to want to talk about everything really, rather than acting on something in a world filled with times and events that you can actually act rather than think. I mean, talk rather.
Maybe, yeah, that could have been it. And then we have, well, it's not really your pick, but we're going to talk about 100, I guess. So, what do you have to say about 100
Yes,
and why
100.
we're talking about it?
I don't know. It was a pretty good show. Just a little fun fact on it. I believe it's either the author or the artist of the light novel worked on Shin My Mao No Testament, the classic.
The one where the second season that aired was basically porn.
Yeah, no, it is hentai in anime form, if that makes sense. It's so if you thought, if you're wanting some, I don't know, sweet anime titty, this is the show for your season. If you kind of watched the first episode of 100 and, I don't know, you just said that you might want Infinite Stratos with a twist, a non-sexual twist, then you might as well stop now. But, it's gonna be that type of show. It's gonna be weird. It's gonna be weird because Shin My Mountain Testament is weird in how they kind of bring in their ecchi, so to speak. Like it's almost too far, but it's not far enough where I'm kind of like, this is distasteful, but it's still far enough that I won't really say that it's normal.
Yeah, I can't decide if the comparisons to Infinite Stratos make me angry or not, because I mean, Infinite Stratos isn't a great show, but at least it has great characters based on this first episode. I don't know.
Yeah, well, they seem to be taking their characters a lot more serious than Infinite Stratos anyways. Definitely with the main character anyways. First, I think, like, I'm interested to see how they actually, the harem members are actually going to be like, because you got straight off the bat, you got your Cecile, that was the name, right? Cecile? Clone right there. You got twin tails and everything. Then you got your Charlotte, even, with the main chick, who's pretending to be a boy but is actually a girl and is going to live with the guy for a while. So, I don't know. It's going to be... Speaking of comparisons between two shows, I think this is another one where we'll kind of be very interested in watching. I'm going to keep watching it, and I'm going to be just enthralled by the gripping characters, the intense battles, and the thought-provoking themes within the show. I can't wait. It's going to be my anime of the season.
Assuming we have time, because your actual pick is ReZero, you said.
Yes, that's a decent point.
Yeah, I guess we'll do a double feature next week where we talk about. Well, I guess it would already technically have been a double feature. We talked about it this week since it was an hour-long first episode.
Oh fuck yeah!
But I guess next week we'll have an hour and a half worth of content to talk about with that show.
Oh god.
I mean, I guess I could just say that I liked the first episode. ReZero was actually going to be my dark horse pick if Bungo Stray Dogs didn't air this season, so that's actually interesting.
Well, yeah. It's going to be interesting how they do it, really. I've only really read the premise, and it's just going to be... The show's just going to be, like, one on how serious they take it, really. It seems that they're taking it, like, as a proper show rather than just, like, a comedy show, I think.
For the most part, yeah.
So, yeah, so it's going to be interesting on how they do it.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see your thoughts when we talk about it next week.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to watching it anyways. It seems fun anyways. Well, fun in sort of like I'm having fun watching these characters be miserable, but you know.
Yeah. I should probably say stuff about 100 because I didn't actually do that.
Oh yeah.
100 was, like it was okay, I guess. Like for every something that it did was like for every interaction between the main characters, like there was one that I liked, but then there was also one that was like fucking stupid. So it's hard for me to really get a gauge on it because that's like kind of like how it was in general. For everything I didn't like, there was something that I did like. So it's hard for me to call on that whether I care about it or not. So
yeah, there were definitely some moments within the show where I was thinking, this is not your standard harem, but then it had like the normal bits of the guy just walking in on the girl, and yeah, it was interesting. Again, it's gonna be a super interesting show plot wise, so
plot wise.
Yeah.
Anyways, I think that about covers everything, right? Like that was all 4 shows. Although we briefly went over 2 of them, but
yeah,
it'll be fixed up
unless
next week.
Yeah, no, we're very close to the hour mark, so I think this is a beautiful place to end it.
Yeah, I mean, we watched a couple other things. Both of us watched Kumamiko, and I watched like a list of things I made before this in case we had time. But it's a good stopping point right now since we're about an hour in. So
yeah,
that filled up time perfectly, and we'll probably just get more efficient as this goes on. So
maybe we might actually not. We might not actually ramble on like other things. We might just stay on topic for the entire thing. God forbid.
Well, the rambling is fine though. Like it's nice to have a little variety in what we talk about.
Yeah.
But that about covers it. I mean, I don't. Should I ask you to plug yourself again? I mean, you already plugged yourself the first time.
Yeah. My credentials, maybe. I do review things, kinda, on theauditory.wordpress.com. They're shit reviews, but they're reviews nonetheless. Other than that, there's the Twitter, there's everything. It's me. I'm not good at plugging myself. I always feel a little bit like bad afterwards. Like I'm just kind of like, I feel guilty about like showing off and telling people how to contact me on a public medium. Like, follow my Twitter, follow my Patreon, donate to my Patreon, donate to my PayPal, follow me on Steam. It's all like very guilt defying, so to speak.
Yeah, it's fine for you to plug yourself. I mean, you're on this. I don't want to call it a podcast. Still, it's you're on this talk show, so it's fine to plug yourself, even if you almost never post.
See, when we say talk show, though, it's more over the fact that like I'm just kind of like a guest, a reoccurring guest, really, and you're the host. Whereas this is more.
Not really. I mean,
I mean, it's a
I couldn't really just do this on my own. I mean, I guess I could, but it'd be really weird.
Well, yeah, I would, yeah. Yeah. I you need me, basically.
Oh, God.
Yeah, you need me.
Anyways, that wraps up the first real whatever this is, so I think we're about done.
Yeah.
So, guess, what do I want my ending to be? See you next week.
Okay.